Good morning and welcome to EV Motoring. I'm Joe, and it's time to go on a range test with the Polestar 2. It's charged up to 100%, and it is negative 9 degrees Fahrenheit, which is negative 23 degrees Celsius right now. It is absolutely freezing. Unfortunately, when temperatures like this come around Chicagoland, it's impossible to get no wind. You can maybe hear a little bit of wind rustling around. It's a slight 10-mile-an-hour wind. It's coming from the west, but it should be relatively negligible as we will drive into it, and then it'll be a tailwind on the way back since we do a loop-style test. So that will hopefully help negate the wind as best as possible. I just want to take advantage of the temperatures while we have these low temperatures around here to be able to get this out on a range test. Time to unplug and hit the road, and we'll go into some detail about our route, the outside conditions a little more about the car. But like I said, with how cold it is, I just want to get in the car and get this journey started. Okay, just wanted to highlight a couple quick features before we hit the road. So you can see here, it's charged to 100%. For some reason, it says 260 miles of rated range. Not sure why that is. The car's been 250 during my whole life of owning it, so not knowing why in these temperatures it's saying that. Even here, suggesting 240, we know that's not realistic. Let's go in here and see the climate settings. So as I've done in my prior winter range test, have the seat heater set to level 1, have the climate in eco and auto, and we're gonna do a fan speed 1. So trying to be efficient, but still having the temperature set at 72 degrees and seat heater on level 1, so we're consistent with previous vehicles. Car right now shows 7 degrees. You might have seen that, but that's because it was in my garage, which it's not a heated garage, but it certainly holds a little bit of heat. As soon as we start driving, it will plummet like very quickly. I've checked on the weather channel. I'll just do another check right now since I'm leaving. Yep. So I'll add that to the video. Negative 9 degrees. Should continue to hold that temp the whole time during the drive. So it should continue to hold that temperature throughout the drive. There is a 10-mile-an-hour headwind that I'll be dealing with, but unfortunately, when we're getting temperatures this extreme, there's really no chance of getting seldom to no wind at all. I try to do these range tests when it's 5 miles an hour wind or less, but it kind of just unfortunately is what it is here. So I'm going to, but as I'll show with my route right now, we are heading west and then we loop around and head back east. So as best as possible, that will negate the wind. Also about, right now I'm on city streets very briefly. I live about a mile from the highway. So once I get on the highway, I'll immediately get up to 75 miles per hour. And I will maintain that speed as best possible. It is, at times, sometimes there's a truck that might pull out in front of me, or sometimes we get stuck in a little bit of traffic. So I do my best to try to avoid following vehicles because that, we don't want to use the draft of them cutting through the wind for us. And if I do get caught behind for a minute or so behind a vehicle, I will try to compensate and maybe do 76 or 77 miles an hour for a couple of minutes if I had to slow down to 73 or something like that. So just try to keep it consistent and keep it as level at 70 miles an hour as possible. Right now I just reset the trip computer on the car, so we have all the data on that. So a little bit more about the vehicle. It's the 2022 Polestar 2. This is the dual motor variant, so that makes a big difference in the range, of course. EPA rated, as I mentioned earlier, is 250 miles. So, we won't come anywhere near that. Even on my regular road trips, I've come nowhere near the EPA rated range number, but it is what it is. That's why I do these range tests, to try to show you what you can expect to actually experience in real world conditions. We got a snowstorm yesterday. It was kind of a less than projected snowstorm, but the nice thing is I know the highways will be nice and clean, and that will not impact the test at all. There was a little bit of snow on my local side streets where I live, but once I get on the highway, it'll be nice and clear conditions to drive out to basically Rockford, Illinois and back and I'll do a little bit of a loop out in Rockford. It's the same route that I took when I did the Volkswagen ID4 range test, so try to keep it consistent. It's the same route that I'll take. Actually, most likely, we're going to get some warm weather next week, so I should be doing the regular range test. I'm not sure which one will get posted first, but nonetheless, I should be doing the regular range test here in a couple days. So vehicle has almost 11,000 miles on it. Right now I'm at 10,946 at this moment. So 10,000 mile review is coming, and definitely stay tuned for that. I filmed some of that out on the Tail of the Dragon out in North Carolina. So it was really cool to experience this machine on a road like that. All right, so it's actually exactly 2 miles from the time I left my house to right now when I'm merging on the highway. Car now is already down to -3. Car thermometers are always a little less accurate than everything else, though. As you can see, the tire tracks are nice and clear, and there isn't really any slush in the lanes, at least on this first highway I'm on. Then I can jump onto Interstate 90, and hopefully that should be even a little more clear. I'm just kind of doing, the best of what I can, because we only have these temperatures for today and then tomorrow, but tomorrow's Christmas Eve, so I cannot, unfortunately, I cannot just take off Christmas Eve to go do a range test. I have family stuff that obviously comes first, so I wanted to make sure I got out and did this test today. I'm projecting somewhere in the 170 range would be hopeful, maybe 160. I'm really hoping to not be as low as 150. My goal is probably to drive west until I hit about 50% and then turn around and come back. And I'll feel comfortable about that because because the wind will then be behind me for the route home. So it'll be, if it's pushing me back towards home, that'll make me feel pretty comfortable that I'll be able to make it and not get stranded on the side of the road in -9-degree temperatures. One of the things I'm not used to is how aggressively the regen is affected when I'm at these high state of charge. So I'm at 96% right now, and I just let off because I was getting on the on-ramp to get on I-90 here, and the car completely coasted more than I expected to, and that's just because combination of the frigid cold temperatures prevent the battery from doing more as much regen as normal, as well as the high state of charge also limits the amount that the battery can charge. But now that we're on the highway, we'll speed up to 75 and set the cruise. There we go. I should also mention this is the base model, so no pilot package, no plus package. So I don't have, obviously you can see I don't have the neoprene wetsuit seats. I don't have the Napa leather upgrade either, so it's just heated seats. I do not have adaptive cruise control, which is actually going to help this range test a little more because it'll ensure that I can really keep the car pinned at 75 as much as possible, rather than constantly having the car ebb and flow every time it thinks a car in front of me is too close. Right now, I was able to get into the left lane, and even though there's a little bit of traffic around, looks like a pretty clear sailing ahead, and shouldn't have a problem maintaining 75 miles an hour. If you're interested in a Polestar 2, I do have a link below. I'm not really too familiar with what the Polestar referral program is. It's kind of something they just announced that they're going to start doing. But if you happen to order one, it definitely helps me out in some way or another if you use the link. As far at the time of filming this, there is no Chicagoland Polestar Center, Polestar Delivery Center, whatever you want to call it. I actually went to Denver to pick up mine, but there's also a location in Detroit as well as Minneapolis. One thing to keep in mind with the Polestar, though, because it's manufactured in China, it does not, at this time, this is December 2022, at this time does not get the $7,500 federal tax credit. So that certainly, creates a big price difference that now Tesla got their credit back come January 1st, and Polestar lost it. That's a $15,000 effective swing in the price of the vehicles. But, you have to buy the vehicle that makes you happy, and this Polestar certainly makes me happy. preliminarily, we are getting horrible efficiency numbers. Car's projecting just 130 miles left, 62 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. I'll be sure to do the conversions to show how many miles per kilowatt hour that is, since I don't know, I usually am just not used to dealing with kilowatt hours per 100 miles. So I'll make sure to convert that to miles per kilowatt hour, is the number I most frequently use. If we jump in here, we're at 90%, and we've gone 12 miles already. All right, we're just ticked over to 75% remaining. Still burning energy like crazy, 62 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. We've only gone 30 miles. So that obviously extrapolates out to only 120 miles of range. Now I feel comfortable that this headwind we've gotten, actually now that we've gone out in the farm country area, it's probably up to about a 15 mile an hour wind. But like I said, that'll follow me. That'll be a tailwind the whole way home. Trying to do this the best I can to negate that. But I'm projecting we're only going to get somewhere around 140, if that. So this is way worse than expected for these temperatures. I guess I've never really, even when I had the Volkswagen, I never really had a range test in this low of temperature. The Volkswagen range test, I think, was around 9 or 10 degrees above zero, not -9 below zero. So definitely much more extreme conditions. Obviously, what you should take from this video is, if you watch the regular range test plus this cold weather one, and you know the conditions you're driving in, are somewhere in the middle, well, then your range should be somewhere in the middle. So I'm trying to give both extremes as much as possible of the perfect weather conditions and the extremely horrible freezing weather conditions, and trying to give both the best and worst use case for the vehicle. All right, just ticked over to 50%. So we can see our efficiency so far, still at almost 60 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. Absolutely incredible. Like I said, I will have that conversion to miles per kilowatt hour down at the bottom, but certainly less than 2 miles per kilowatt hour. We've gone just 61.5 miles. That's pretty horrible. Something interesting though is the car is projecting that we'll get to our charger with 16%. Not sure how it's expecting us to arrive with that much. So maybe it's really thinking the wind is going to make that much of a difference, that the headwind really hurt me, and now when it turns into a tailwind, it'll help a lot. I'm not really too sure, but as far as the car's concerned, it's projecting 65 miles, and our instant consumption, that's down to 41 because we're going ever so slightly downhill. That's been averaging right around 50. So pretty much at this next exit up here in about a mile, I'm going to turn around and start heading home. So I'm just exiting now and looping around to get right back on the highway. Wow, that was pretty bad. I don't know if I got that on camera. That truck was pretty messed up. Anyway, back on the road now. The conditions last night were pretty icy and brutal, so I'm pretty sure that's probably when that happened. I would expect, at least, or it's from the little bit of winds that are occurring out there. All right, so just went on the Cloverleaf, got back onto the highway. I have 58 miles to go. Car's projecting I'll arrive with 15%. If I get back to my exit and I still have, a lot of, like 15% or something like that still in the battery, I'll certainly do some more loops around to make sure I burn that off. I'll stay on the highway, go to another exit, a couple exits down, circle back. I'll make sure to, burn it down as much as I can. But pretty interesting at why Google thinks I'll arrive at 15%. I used 52% to get up here, so logically it should be something close to 50% to get back. So we'll see. I'll track it as we go, but right now 46% remaining, and we'll see if we make it back to the charger. we are down to 25%. So now our efficiency, we've gone 105 miles and we are achieving 52.9 kilowatt hours per 100 miles, which means we're basically almost at 2 miles per kilowatt hour. So at least it finally, I was right, the shift in the wind did help us out a little bit, so that's good. Right now it looks like we'll arrive with about 14% at the charger. So I'm working on making sure that we go one exit further. So we'll circle back and arrive with hopefully about 8% at the charger, or less even. Something I just wanted to highlight really quickly is we just ticked down to 18%. Normally I've just been showing every 10% that we hit, and then I've been doing my check-ins here at 75, 50, and 25. But I just wanted to show real quick that right here you can see power is starting to be limited. Granted, it's a very small limitation and I easily could still make highway passes. We'll monitor this to see how rapidly the Polestar restricts power to the point that I might not be able to maintain highway speed anymore. Just merging back on from what should be my last loop. Looks like I should arrive with about 7% at the Electrify America charger. I'll try to get it a little bit lower if I can, but one thing I'm in fear of going too low is power is already, as I mentioned earlier, starting to get limited. And it's actually a commonly known thing that the BMS, the battery management system on electric vehicles, can get confused in extreme conditions, especially like cold conditions like this. It was a known issue. I'm not sure if it's been corrected, but Teslas, for example, that you'd be driving with about 5% left thinking you can make it to your destination, and the car would just shut off, and you'd be stranded on the side of the road because the battery system was very confused with the cold, because of the cold weather, threw it all off. So I don't want to be in that scenario. Certainly want to make sure I make it to the charger. So really shooting for, if I can get it down to, 7% or so, I will. I think the exit I was going to take, I can probably go one exit further, and that should get me closer to maybe 5 or 6%. But that's about as far as I think I can push it, just because the way these exits are around here, I would have to go like another 4 or 5 miles round trip, and I just don't know if the battery has that if I push it to one more exit further. So I'm kind of stuck exiting, up here in 5 miles. So just ticked over to 10% right now. So go ahead and show the data. So you can see power is limited even further than it was the last time we checked in. And we're, pretty close to that 2 miles per kilowatt hour, or 50 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. 132 miles we've gone so far. So substantially less than I ever thought would have been possible. I really had us targeting, about 160 miles or so. Car is estimating 26 miles of range, but the range calculator is estimating only 12 miles of range. So that's kind of where I was saying I'm a little bit concerned. I don't want to, I should say the EPA rated range for 10% is 26 miles. However, the car projects we can only go 12 miles. So like I said, I don't think that's enough to really push it to one exit further, because I think if I go one exit further, I think it's about 4 miles. Can't really tell, just kind of roughly looking at the map. I think it is like another 3 or 4 miles, and that would put us in with zero with, and I'm just not sure if the vehicle can actually make that. So like I said, I'll continue to push the car, as much as I can. The other thing we're running into is that power restriction continues to keep creeping across, and there becomes a point where the vehicle cannot safely maintain highway speeds. And this is noted in other people's Polestar range tests, because Polestar lets you use so much of the battery pack. Like for example, the Volkswagen had an 82 kilowatt hour battery and 77 of it was usable. So there was a 5 kilowatt hour buffer, and that's a little bit of buffer that the manufacturer puts on the top and bottom of the battery to make sure that you don't you completely charge it and completely deplete it. You always want to leave a little bit of a gap at the top and bottom so it protects the battery. With the Polestar, it's a 78 kilowatt hour battery, and they let us use 75 kilowatt hours. So that 3 kilowatt hour buffer, probably about 1.5 on each side, the top and bottom, is a very, very small buffer. And that's what causes the car to be affected more when it's charged to 100%. Turtle mode just got engaged right now. So when the car is charged to 100%, I'm severely restricted on the amount of regen I can have. And when the car's down here in turtle mode, as you can see right there, we are, severely restricted on barely being able to maintain highway speed. Oh, so, yep, I did push it one more exit just for your viewing pleasure. So 8% in turtle mode already. It's 4.5 miles to my destination. So should arrive with about 5%. This is going to be exciting. A little bit of range anxiety, As I've said in videos in the past, the only time I truly feel alive is when I'm below 5% on my battery. So I'm crawling back to the charger right now, severe power limitation being down at 6%. I kind of have to call it here because I'm at 137.8 miles, and I've actually gone about about a half mile so far. So I'm basically at 137 miles, and when I was exiting the highway, I could not maintain 75 miles an hour. Like, I had my foot buried and the car was slowing down, 72, 71, 70. Still was maintaining highway speeds, but it was no longer maintaining 75 miles per hour. So, that's kind of where we need to call it. If the car cannot maintain highway speeds, that's the end of the highway range test. So I'm still able to crawl around town, thankfully, to hopefully make it this last 1.5 miles back to the charger. But 137 miles in, -7 degree temperature basically was the average temperature. It started at -9. It's warmed up to a very warm -5. So, true winter testing for sure. But I don't know what to think about that. That's actually way less than I would have expected. I really was thinking about 160 miles or so, especially because this car, for the most part, had been more efficient than the ID4. So I was surprised that it burned so much on this test. Also, I should mention, as I mentioned earlier, this vehicle was tested at about -7 degrees. The coldest I ever got the ID4 into was about 9 degrees positive. So there's a big difference there. That 15 to 20 degrees difference certainly can have an impact on the range, as you would expect. But now we'll jump over to the charger if we make it and plug in and kind of recap the video. Well, I made it to the charger, thankfully, arrived with 5%, plugged in. What I'm actually really surprised about is that I'm pulling, so it shows me the charging info, and so I'm only pulling 43 kilowatts. I don't actually think that's a cold battery or cold weather issue. That's a known issue with these chargers. I looked at the reviews, and people have been complaining about slow speeds at these units for weeks now. So hopefully Electrify America comes out and figures out why they're all being power limited to, about 50 or so. I know Charger 3 is 50. Charger 1 that the Bolt is on, I've gotten like 75 out of before. And Charger 2 here had been broken for weeks, so I don't even know. So 43 sounds fine to me. I don't know what it would have delivered. I just know I needed some juice, so I'm happy that the spot was open. But it's interesting. It's delivering 112 amps at 382 volts right now. It was a little bit lower at like 377, so I'm surprised to see how low the pack voltage actually got. And that might have been due to, we were really pushing the power limit that I had the pedal basically buried trying to maintain highway speed, and I couldn't anymore. But nonetheless, the Polestar continues to be a great vehicle, even though the range is much less than expected. It certainly is still usable, and I don't know when I would ever be on a road trip in these conditions to have to deal with, that level of inefficiency. But knowing that the car still performs well and is still very comfortable, the heated seat and the heat HVAC inside here was excellent the whole ride. Very comfortable for the couple-hour drive, and going to charge up here to get enough juice just to make it home, and then I'll level 2 charge once I get home. So time to pretty much wrap it up. This charger's full yet again. There's actually a BMW iX that was here when I got here. I'm not sure where they are. Bolt behind me, an ID4 just pulled up. I'm charging here on charge number 2, only getting 44 kilowatts right now. Pretty horrible. With that, 137 miles. Like I said, less than anticipated, but I think it's time to end the video here. So if you haven't already, please do like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content with the Polestar 2 as well as other electric vehicles in the future. And take care until next time.